Okay, so I've assembled it and figured out how to put it together. The instructions aren't fantastic, I'll admit, but figured it out, and so I thought I'd share it with you. So the first thing for MIG welding, get this door open. You don't have to have it aside, I'm just doing it so you can see. So what you've got is, when you first open it, this reel is not in here. So you've got the reel that comes in your packaged up. Cut that open. It's got a paper wrapper. I don't release that like I did, but the wire is quite rigid wire and quickly starts unwinding itself. So don't do that. So the trick is, the single biggest trick was getting this knob off. And so what it is actually, there's no instructions that say, but what you do is you push it down, and then you turn, although it says off, yeah, you push it down and you turn it, it says off, that says off clockwise and on anti-clockwise, but in fact it's the opposite. So push it down anti-clockwise, and whoopsie, and there the wire goes again. Let's just keep it tight. Anti-clockwise, that comes off. There's a little plastic washer over there, that comes off, and then your reel of wire comes off or goes on. So you drop your reel of wire on, plastic washer on, this aligns some splines there, and then you turn it, there we go, clockwise to then lock it in place. So the wire's on, then you can, this is the next piece you do. So you unscrew this, it takes quite a few unscrews, as you can see, there we go. So that then drops out, and that is the kind of tensioner that drives the wire. So then when you're ready, try and hold your wire so it doesn't all unravel. Get your piece of paper off and feed your piece of wire through this first hole here. It'll come through, you'll see it appear here, and then the real trick was to guide it. So cut the wire off nice and square. It came with, you know, a kinked piece in the beginning, so cut it off nice and square so it goes through, then feed it. It's a bit of a trick to get it through that second hole. Get it through there, and you know, kind of feed it in, I don't know, 100 millimeter or something like that, as much as it can go. That's good enough. Drop this down. That's your drive. So that's the wire tensioner and drive. Screw this down. It stops. It kind of stops at a particular point. So that will now drive your wire. So we're all good in here. The next thing we do is, which I haven't undone because I've already threaded my wire through, you put the gun connector onto the left hand side, James. There's a nice picture of that, so that's quite obvious where it goes in. It drops in and it turns anti-clockwise and it locks in place. That's good. And then there's also this little 2 connector. So this is the sensor to I've managed to undo the connector. What did I do wrong there? Let's do that. Yep. Come on. Okay. So this is a 2-pin connector. It goes on there, and that's the sensor for the gun that you're pressing the handle on the gun, or pressing the switch on the gun, basically for the switch on the gun. So that's your MIG connector there. On this side, on the positive side, you connect your earth. So there's your earth, goes in there, turn it, there we go, it's nice in place. So earth's on, then you can turn on. So let's plug it in, and we're in. And you've got the power switch at the back. Let's get that on. And those 2 trip. Those 2 trip everything. Right. I have no idea why it tripped. It didn't trip earlier. Let's have a look. Let's get that onto earth. To unearth. Let's try that again. Plug in. Okay. I don't know why that tripped. No idea. Okay. So that's the power switch there. Let's come back to the front of the unit. So then you've got a switch, a push button over here that toggles between MIG 1mm, arc welding or stick welding. I don't know what that is, it just goes off, and then MIG 0.8mm, which is the wire that I've got. So I put in 0.8mm, so I'll set it to that. Then on the left hand side here, you've got your wire feed speed, on the right, you've got your wire feed speed, and as you turn that you can see your wire feed speed. In the instructions it says for beginners set it to about 30. I eventually needed it a little faster to run, so I'll set it there. And then it describes on the left hand side here you've got your voltage. This doesn't seem to have any connection with the LCD display, so I think you just read it off the button kind of bezel. So I was running it initially at 50%. It was a bit low, so I'm running mine about 65%, something like that, of the whole lot. So that's how you set up for MIG. Then what you've got is you've got the gun, and what's really neat is that the wire is dead, and you can touch it on the earth with nothing until you press the button. The wire doesn't feed and it doesn't arc, and so it's quite nice. As I was finding, you can actually touch the job with the wire, then press the button, and instantly you get a decent arc, and you can start welding quite, really easily to kind of get going. I made a bird's nest to the first couple of welds, but quickly started improving. But yeah, that's the setup. That's how you get the unit going. I'll come back and tell you more as I learn more. This is a follow-up video just to share some of the things I've learnt on this. So in terms of the wire that goes through, it uses this foot here in the bottom to feed the wire. It pushes the wire. The amount that you squeeze this down depends on how much you squeeze the wire. Because the wire is hollow core, what I've discovered is you can crush it. So squeeze this down a bit, but don't necessarily go kind of all the way. Just you'll need to find the kind of right level for the wire that you're passing through there. The second thing is, when I finished of the day, I realized that I could rewind it. So I just manually, I released this off, and then wound the wire, pulled it all back in, and saved myself, I don't know, 1.5 meters of wire back onto the drum. So that's good. I definitely am wrapping the drum quite carefully with kind of plastic, so that, because I think the way it came with this fancy foil wrapper, I get a sense that moisture is probably not great for it. So I'm putting it back in the foil, and then I've got this kind of wrap, and so I then kind of completely shrink wrap the whole thing in shrink. Anyway, do that later. So what else do I want to show you on here? So I think there was everything in here. There was the cable. So the cables, these cables, which probably I can probably show you on this one. The cable pulls out quite It won't do it on this end, but on the other one it was. So the cable pulled out of its rubber really, really easily, and so when I'm screwing it into here, the outer shroud would just turn around there. So what I did is I just pulled it out, put a couple of drops of super glue on, back in, and that's there permanently. So that's definitely a good fix. The other fix I did was on the other end of the gun. So the other end of the gun, you have this little cable that's the power, or the sensor for the switch at the other end of the gun, and both these this was loose in this housing, and this kind of also came off, so that when you were trying to screw it into here, the whole thing would kind of turn and twist, etc. So I took it out, put a couple of drops on the thread, put that in properly, a couple of drops of super glue on that thread, put that on properly, and now that's nice and solid and won't ever turn. The rest of it has looked pretty good. Something I learnt the second time I used it. The first time I used it, I did the wire feed. I did the wire feed, and it fed through beautifully straight out the end. However, when I came to use the gun the second time, I did that. The wire somehow got blocked in here, and then at the drive, the wire backed up on itself and basically twisted. So what I've learned is, and in fact I think this is probably the way you're supposed to do it, so you pull this off, it just pulls off the shroud. Always keep that clean. When you're finished, give that a good clean, because there's lots of build up in there. And then with a little shifter or spanner, take that out, feed your wire through, zip, then push this onto the wire and screw this kind of back in place. So that is the way some of the websites that I've been having a look at talk about doing it, because yeah, well, my wire just couldn't find its way into this properly. As you can see here, I don't know if you can see there, there's it's chamfered, it should flow, but clearly it's just not quite good enough, got caught and jammed. So yeah, take that off whenever you are feeding your wire in, and reassemble just by pushing that down. That's it. That's the only thing I've learned. Yeah, but otherwise, actually, I'm really pleased with it. It's welding really nicely. The job I've just finished, it did a beautiful job on. I tried the stick welding. I've tried both the stick and the MIG, and both of them, it's done a great job. I strongly, highly recommend the Welder. So quick follow-up on the tripped power earlier. So I think the unit consumes a lot of power when starting up, and I've got 16 amp breakers and it's tripping the 60 amp breaker. So, and the reason I think it chews a lot of power starting up is that in fact after the light gets tripped, the unit continues to run for another 5 or 6 seconds on its own power. So it must have a massive supercapacitor in there. I suspect that's also what they're using as a buffer for the welding, so it makes sense to me. But the problem is it's tripping my 16 amp breaker. So I'm going to get a new breaker for the house. I'm going to get one of those breakers, kind of a C breaker that allows you to consume a lot more power just when it starts up, and then it kind of drops kind of back down. I think that will solve it. I'll let you know if it doesn't. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the unit. It's not tripping the RCD. And I've also got quite a long cable out to my garage, so there's a bit of resistance there, which is probably not helping things either, but I think that'll fix it.